Ready to connect.
I'll go right on into it.
Yeah.
So basically, I'm making a little bit of a plug. I'm going to try to make it a little bit later. Is that on Saturday in Ocala, Florida, there is a Cyberfest from 3 to 9. I think like at the Hard Rock proving ground, or it's basically it's a dirt track. So if you just like for the Hard Rock something in Ocala, it's not the cafe, of course. There's going to be a lot of Cybertrucks there, a couple of influencers. CERN Basher will be there, for example. Tesla Tina will be there, bearded Tesla guy. There's going to be a couple of, panels and stuff like that. But one of the things I plan on doing towards the end is talking about, portable Starlink and what do you need to do to configure it in your car. What kind of connectors are going to work, what are the experiences, everything else. So if anyone's up there, we'll talk about it. And so this is kind of like one example is that the old Starlink dishes were a bit more complicated because they were a lot bigger. They needed 110 volts. They needed a router, all this other stuff, a lot of long cabling that you're just dragging around. It was unnecessary. And the Mini is way more portable. And so I'm trying to prove the point because right now I'm literally walking with the Mini on my back. So I ended up from when I went up to the May the 4th event at Monroe and Associates, Sandy Monroe handed out to the influencers that were there one of these cyber backpacks. So it's a Cybertruck themed backpack, which means it has a nice hard shell and it has an angle. I'm like, oh, that's perfect. I can probably attempt to mount the Mini on the back of that. So I mounted it on there, and I need to get a bit more of an angle because you really want the dish to be close to horizontal and not vertical. And so I needed to put a wedge in there. And the little packing box that the wire came for this thing, if you look at one of the images, you'll see a little piece of cardboard. They basically used that thing, propped up a little bit, and it created the perfect wedge for me to kind of angle it a bit more. So all I have is the Mini mounted to the back of a backpack, could be anyone's backpack, and just using some not necessarily bungees, but my wife ended up getting these, big twist them kind of things that worked really well. And then I ordered a Basis 100-watt battery bank, which is it's able to output up to 100 watts through the USB-C port. And I think it's basically has enough for about 4 hours of operation of the Mini. And so I just have that, and then the wire that I had to get from Starlink, because the one that comes with the kit is not going to plug into a Basis backpack. You have to get it, or any sort of battery bank that would have that. So you have to get something like that. And you can order it on Amazon, as I talked about earlier, and you can probably get a shorter one because this thing I think is 15 feet or something like that. So it's a lot longer than I need. But you just need to make sure you have the right barrel jack size and just USB, and that it's rated for the amperage and the voltage, because this thing is actually outputting not 5 volts, but it's outputting 40. I think up maybe 40, or the pack may not be able to. It's at least able to do up to 100 watts, but maybe at a maximum of like 24 volts or 30 volts or something like that, which is still way beyond what you're used to. So if you're hearing this voice, you're hearing it over the Mini dish that's on my back as I'm walking around. And it's light enough. I injured my back like 2 weeks ago. So the last thing I want to be doing is lugging around something really heavy on my back. So it's not a big deal. It really isn't.
Are you getting as many looks as the Cybertruck gets?
No, because the sun is set and I'm on a secluded beach right now. There's no one here. Usually the beach is closed after sunset. So
we need to send you to a crowded downtown area where there's a bunch of people that can wonder who you're talking to.
I was going to walk down the road, but it's got some trees that lined it. I was afraid would block it, and then of course I was also afraid that some people would think I'm kind of crazy, and then call the call the hospitals and come and grab me.
It's a pretty awesome. The only thing it doesn't have, I've actually sent people out to do field testing for measuring signal strength, and I got them a hard hat. And I put the antenna that went to what's supposed to be a vehicle device that I put in a backpack like this. I had the antenna stuck on their head on a hard hat with a cable so they could go out and collect signal data for me. So They looked crazy, so this looks much better.
Can I ask everybody real quick just to repost this? We had some technical issues, so we had to sort of use space over. If you guys could just go to the pill and repost this, we'd really appreciate it. And then just give us a thumbs up if you guys can hear us.
Yeah,
So I'm
it.
misaligned by 49 degrees, but doesn't seem to matter. And I'm getting 90 megabits per second.
And you're in the middle of the beach, right? I'm assuming.
Yeah, and they're on the beach. I'm misaligned. You know, it's way too vertical. It's not as flat as it should be. And I haven't had any interruptions, which really surprises me. I was expecting that there'd be a dropout or something like that. Because, you know, I'm turning my head and my body this way and everything else as I'm walking. And in some ways, what Ryan was doing last week is almost more stable, you know? It's not like he's like weaving back and forth. He's like on a nice straight road, even if he was going 90 miles an hour. I'm just some guy bumbling around.
Well, and I only heard as you were walking towards the beach. I did hear one on our first attempt to
Yeah. I was facing basically east-west at that point, which may have not been best for it, and I was going through a grove of trees.
And it didn't drop. It was a very, very, very slight drop. So
yes. And remember, this has to be real time in order for this to work over Periscope. So there's very little lag. I mean, it's one thing if I'm listening to a YouTube video, I won't notice the dropout because of the buffering. But here we will. We'll notice it.
Oh yeah, Ryan. That was a big struggle with Ryan's situation as he was traversing the country and getting the live streaming down and adding to his ability to bring content while on the air. So he's been working on a lot of stuff to improve his live streaming abilities from his vehicle. So I mean, he's gonna give us some updates on that. So we got 8 folks here with us. So I don't know. We want to you want to start talking about your Ioniq situation and driving that, Ryan?
Yeah, I think the drive I had across the country really spoke volumes for Tesla. It really did. I think the Tesla network that it has is quite superior to what I've driven so far on test drives for the other EVs. I think I was even at the dealership today driving the Silverado, and that was quite the experience. It was a beautiful car, absolutely gorgeous car. It's the features are, you have your standard car look. I mean, the truck look. If you really don't like the Tesla Cybertruck, I think this would be a phenomenal option for you to look into getting the loaded Silverado. They do start at 97,000 and change, so you're not paying for something cheap, but you are getting a hell of a truck for that. It's been redesigned. It is, I think, they're first year model EV like that, so they're in their growing pains, and part of that growing pain system is their media system isn't really up to par. Like their software just isn't really comparable to Tesla. And I know, I'm not a Tesla fanboy. I do love the car. I'm not a fanatic about it, but I do love the car. I actually was looking at other EVs before I bought my first Tesla a year and a half ago, coming from a ICE truck. But it is a really nice car. But there's really nothing that I found so far that surpasses. Not FSD. I'm not talking about the autopilot system. I'm talking about the actual software system of Tesla. That car is bar none above everything I've driven. And today's drive with the Silverado was great. I mean, beautiful truck on the inside. It has the full, the monitor, but it still has that, I wouldn't say Tonka toy feel, but it's got that regular car feel. It doesn't really have that wow effect on it.
I remember thinking it was when we did our little short thing. I thought it felt really plasticky. Like I didn't go like Ryan and I did a very short, literally around the block thing. We didn't test anything. The car wasn't activated. To me, it felt very plasticky and just very Chevy like. I liked it, but that's why I'm really excited to hear that Ryan got some seat time, because like we couldn't test any of these features. We couldn't shoot. The backup cameras didn't even work. How was the what do they call it? It's not the Blue Cruise. It was there the Chevy Cruise? How did that work?
Yeah, that the Chevy Cruise was basically it was the free version. Well, it wasn't free. It's not free. You have to pay monthly for it. But it's basically the free FSD version that you get with the Tesla. So if you don't want to buy the FSD version, you can use the free version, which is called Auto Steer, and it's identical with the exception of changing lanes for you. It's identical to keep you in the lane on the highway, drive around turns, and it's free. The only difference is it will not pull off the exit for you, so you have to mind that, first world problems. And the other part of the auto steer on FSD is that if you want to change lanes, you have to manually change the lanes, right? Or hit the blinker, it'll change lanes for you. The Cruise, it does the exact same thing, but it'll actually change lanes for you. But it's $25 a month, so you have to pay for it. Is it anywhere comparable to FSD? No, not in one bit. Is it comparable to the free version of auto steer that Tesla gives to every owner? Absolutely. It's 100% like for like, with the exception that it'll, change lanes for you, which I don't like that feature anyway, because Tesla's feature just changes lanes way too much on that Stack 11. And I end up actually turning that feature off just because it keeps going into the fast lane. So every time it does that, I piss people off because I'm slowing down to 10% over the speed limit, which is usually what I drive. And then by then I have to go back over, then it goes back over into the fast lane again. So, but very comparable like for like.
I would probably say it isn't, but I'm a little bit more forgiving of what the Tesla does over the rest of the world. I think they're far ahead, but but it had didn't it say you had four-wheel steering? How was the four-wheel steering?
It's so let me kind of get back to you because it's funny. I test before I got struck out on the FSD because I drove. If you guys are listening, I drove the country. I drove from Washington State to Georgia to New Jersey, Chicago, Missouri, and then all the way through Utah and Idaho and back to Washington. I think I probably put my whole trip 4 weeks, probably between 75 to 8,500 miles. Most of it was on FSD. So the last bit of my drive, I was actually testing out the free version of FSD versus the paid version of FSD on the highway. And I drove, I think, for probably, I want to say about 500 miles on the free version of FSD. When I call FSD, it's called Auto Steer Beta on the Tesla system. And I got to tell you, man, that if you don't want to spend the money, if you don't want to spend the $8,000 on a supervised FSD version, if all you really care for is something to be on the highway for, if you just want like a companion to help you drive on the highway to help you relieve some of that, that long-term stress of the highway, then the auto steer beta is just as good as the paid FSD. That's just being as a consumer. I tested both of them out. The Silverado version is auto steer beta. It's exactly the same thing. The only thing I don't like about the Silverado is that with Tesla, if you're not paying attention, or if something before it disengages, it's going to beep at you. It's going to alarm you. There's going to be alerts that are going to go off. What I found with the Silverado, maybe this is a setting that I couldn't find in the test drive, but we couldn't find it. But with the Silverado, the only thing you're going to get is on the steering wheel. The very top part of the steering wheel is like plastic LED light that goes across the steering wheel. It'll start blinking green, and then your seat will vibrate, and then it'll blink red, but then it'll automatically disengage. So you really have to be quick on that steering wheel just to kind of catch where it's going. Otherwise, it's going to not keep you in that lane. So it's a bit of a learning curve, I guess, maybe coming from a Tesla, but I would say it's the free version is identical. And I'm sorry, what was your other question, Scott?
About the rear steer. But so I would, when you say identical, I would probably take issue with identical that theirs is as capable as the Tesla. I'd say if we got to compare them for any length of time, I know people that have used the autopilot feature for years, and I doubt that it's quite as good, especially if you had a long-term experience. But it has the rear wheel steering, which I was watching the rear tires articulate when you were backing it into the dealership location, and it seemed to have a fair degree of deflection. I know we're still waiting on the 10-degree deflection for the Cybertruck. So, like with now that you had the backup camera, how was that experience?
Yeah, so I mean, here's a crazy thing with the Cybertruck, and I don't know if the Silverado is fly-by-wire. I don't know if it is or not because I don't think it
It's
is.
not. The only one in the world is the Cybertruck.
Hey,
Outside of
what's
some
up, Scott?
older stuff.
Scott, you just chime on in, brother. You don't have to raise your hand.
Oh no, I was just going to slightly change the topic for a second. Sithmaster, I posted in the Purple Pill the battery that I'm using, so you have an idea. That was kind of recommended to me by a friend because it has a certain amount of power. There are, of course, smaller battery banks if you want something that's a slightly smaller form factor, but that one seems to be pretty good, and I think it weighs less than a pound. Now, the experiment I'm going to do is I've been walking south, and I'm going to turn really slowly because I noticed when I started to turn back, it did a 180, and I think it kind of dropped out. So I'm slowly going to turn around right now, and let's see if I lose connectivity or if I lose my voice. I'm slowly going around, and now I'm pointed north, and hopefully we're not going to be dropping or anything like that. And if that little experiment worked, I will stay quiet right now, and you can go back to your regular scheduled programming.
Yeah, so I'm just updating. This is pretty cool. I'm using a little feature. So, guys, we're talking about that was Scott Walters. He's testing out the Starlink Mini on a beach. He's got it on a backpack and he's walking with it while we're actually streaming live or talking to you guys live about it. And then we're also talking about the Silverado EV, and we're kind of comparing the new EVs as they're coming out to the Tesla because Tesla's getting ready to have some competition. They've already had some, with China, but there's, but here's the thing, Tesla, kind of laid the benchmark out for all these EVs. But eventually they're going to catch up, right? I mean, hopefully Tesla will keep up with the technology and still be a leader in that at some point in the future. But if you take a back
Well,
seat, people will catch up to you. But
I don't think Tesla's slowed down though, Ryan. That's the thing. Tesla didn't stop. It's not like they built it and just stopped. They're still doing.
yeah, so all we're doing here is I'm kind of comparing the different EVs that I've been testing. So far, I've driven the Ioniq. Was it the 6, I believe, but the 5? They're basically the
It
same
was the
thing. One's a
six.
hatchback,
It
the
was the
6.
six.
Just one's a sedan, one's a hatchback sports equivalent to the Performance 3. I drove the Chevy Blazer and the EV Equinox. And today I redrove the Silverado because Scott and I drove the Silverado in New Jersey a while back, about a week ago now. But it was still in it just got off the truck, so they haven't even actualized it yet. So none of the features hardly were working. But today with that car, I don't know where we left off at with that Silverado, but here's the thing:
So
it's a beautiful
yeah,
truck, $97,000. You get a lot of features for it, but it's still missing the software end of it. That Tesla provides the
now,
consumers.
what do you think if I tell you that car cost them $200,000 to make? Do you think that car is worth $200,000? Because you only have to pay 97 grand for it.
Is it run that by me one more time?
That vehicle cost GM $200,000 roughly within a few grand. That's what it cost them to make each one of those trucks. I mean, it's a wonderful deal from that point of view. But you're saying that the software and some of the other stuff, like I wanted to know, like some of the features we didn't get to see that you got to see today. I want to know how they worked, but just knowing that Cybertruck is already making money or breaking even, but yet this truck is costing GM almost $200,000 a unit. Like what do you? It's got range. It does great trucky things. I will fully admit that. But like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, the first thing I want to say is, guys, thanks for joining and repost this if you can. We had to restart this space, and I would have to say that it's I think it's really dependent. Are they basing the $200,000 cost on the fact that they're losing money on? I mean, it can't get into
No,
production because they can't sell enough, or is that actually their true cost per unit right
that's their per unit cost because they have that big 230 kilowatt plus hour battery pack from the from uh, the Hummer. It's got the same battery. It's got a lot of the stuff from the Hummer in this Silverado. That's like the all-wheel steering and some of the other features are from the Hummer. But yeah, I mean,
now? Well, I think it's well. Here's the thing. I don't know what it cost. What did it cost Tesla to make their Cybertruck? Like, I mean, because expenses go down, right, as you start streamlining things. But what was do you guys know what the cost is of Tesla, the Cybertruck
I know
initially?
from everything I remember reading and learning roughly a year ago, they were losing initially on initial rollout. They were losing it's like $10,000 or $15,000 a unit, and within 90 days they were kind of break even at production. And then they were breaking down productivity to increase cost effectiveness. So, with the Chevy Silverado, I mean, you're getting a smoking deal. Would you recommend it for somebody that wanted an EV truck but wasn't like my wife and people hate the Cybertruck? I love the Cybertruck, but I would buy a Silverado to do trucky things.
Yeah, I think I definitely. Well, here's the thing, Andy. If you want to kind of chime in, I don't know if you're available to speak, but Andy, he's got the Cybertruck, which he actually let me test drive his truck when I was in Georgia. I think here's the thing: if you don't like the Cybertruck, if you don't like the look, if you don't like the inside, or if you're just not a Tesla fan, I think so far from what I've driven, what I've tested out, the Silverado would be your best next option. Is it worth the $200,000? I mean, okay, so here are the features that you get with the Silverado. There's some cool features. Don't get me wrong. Like, so you can open up the tailgate. You have two 120 outlets in the back. You have one 240 outlet in the back, 30 amp outlet in the back. You can power what you need to power through that system. You have an outlet inside the car in the back seat for 120. You have, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 USB-C chargers in there. So you get your power surrounded in the car. Then you can raise your suspension, you can lower your suspension. It's not as cool looking as a Cybertruck. There's a big, like, so when you get the suspension raise, you get this little widget that comes up. It's very basic. With a Cybertruck, it's pretty robust. Like, you can actually see the thing. It's Andy showed me how it's raising up. It shows you the inches. Like, you can actually see it go up and down. So it has a duplicate of that, but I think it's a basic version, if I had to explain it that way. It doesn't have the turning cameras, which I'm really disappointed in. I like the turning camera, so if I make a left turn, right turn, I like to have that monitor pop up a little camera on the monitor of the cars, next to me. It doesn't have that. I think it comes on when you're towing a trailer, but I was waiting for the guy they just got that truck, so the sales guys had no knowledge on this vehicle. I had more information about this vehicle than they did, which is quite funny.
Pretty
But
typical.
I mean, the other cool feature is like the back seats. You can pull down the back seats. They have a pass through, which means that you can open up the bed. If you have like 2x4s that are like, say, 12 feet long or 10 feet long, you can actually open them up and pass them through your trunk or the bed. It passes through. The rear window pops off. It's not manual, it's not automatic, but you can pop it off for additional, like, going through into the cabin. It's got a full glass sunroof, not a sunroof, but a full glass roof. So I don't know, like, I think, and that's pretty much all the features it has. Like, it's the graphs that you can compare the energy consumption is a bit different. It's not as detailed as the Tesla. But one of the things I wanted to ask Andy is, like, Andy, what is your range with your Tesla? Like,
Well,
what is your miles per kilowatt with your Cybertruck?
we got after Andy's done, Stefan's asking to speak. But the one other thing I will say that I have watched real world testing of the Silverado over other electric trucks is its range. It has range. It has the ability to tow almost. It's already almost equivalent to a lot of ICE 1500 series vehicles. So that I will give it without having tested it personally. So, but Andy, sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to like throw that out there that it definitely has that feather in its cap.
Yeah. So my range that I have on average is 490, almost 500 watts per mile. So basically, I get 2 miles for a kilowatt hour.
Okay, and that's kind of the thing I was looking at, because their range, the battery range, was about I was at 92%, and I had about 418 miles in the reserve. But then I started driving it, and I was doing it with a light foot. I was getting about 1.4 miles per kilowatt, which to me, I'm like, with my car, I get about 3.2 miles per kilowatt if I'm driving it on chill mode. Steven, and then Scott.
Hey, yeah, thanks. So my only question was regarding the Cybertruck and how much money they're actually making. I thought they weren't going to actually make money until they started producing the base model.
Well, the hard thing about that is nobody's actually talking, right? So it's conjecture. So it's like what you pick up from what people say in here on X, on Spaces, and what posts you read. Um, as I understand it, they have been basically in the money. They've been making money on a per unit basis, whether that's break even or they're making $100 since this last summer. And obviously, we've all just seen. If you haven't seen, the Cybertruck is the best selling. It's outselling all other EV trucks. It's outselling Rivian, everything combined. It's outselling everything in its class combined. So it's definitely even at the foundation level where they're clearly just it's the premium. They're still just capitalizing on the fact that people will pay a premium to get the product now rather than wait, which I won't. I will wait. I'll wait for Gen 2 just to let the bugs be worked out. But they are making money on a per unit basis, as I understand it now. But they were break even by last January, maybe February.
So when do you anticipate just them starting to produce a base model? Like when do you would you expect it? Just in your opinion,
Well,
I
I
won't hold you
mean,
to it.
so I'm going to kind of toe their company line on this point. I think you'll be able to get non-foundation in Q1 2025. I think you'll be able to order non-foundation. I don't think the lowest price one, the two-wheel drive model, I doubt we'll see that actually rolling out into people's hands until 2026. The demand is there. The demand is there right now. They're selling every single one that they make. They're making um, they're up over 1,000 units a week right now, and as I understand, that's not even pushing the system. So, you know,
Is that a fact? I want to make sure that's a fact they were telling me because like I've heard that they're slowing down on the foundation series because like they released basically the foundation of the trucks to everybody now because the reserves were no longer being met.
well,
I mean,
no,
I don't know.
it's been that way. I'm just saying demand. It's like, yeah, maybe the reservations. Not so most what I'm seeing a lot of people, including myself, if I had one, a lot of people that have the reservations are just passing. They're waiting for their place in line for the non-foundation, because there's a lot of us that don't have the extra money to just get that foundation tag, and they're willing to wait and hold their place in line to get the non-foundation. So there's going to be a whole second round of people that are reservation holders that are going to be getting their non-foundation series. So that second queue, if you will, is still real. We haven't even seen it, but I think Tesla just found out that there's a lot more people that want this truck as that foundation than they really expected. And so as they ramp, they're selling all of their product. They're selling all the foundation. So as a business, does it make sense to just open it up while you're still basically sorting out the nuts and bolts, so to speak, of a brand new product that has just been in production for now just over a year? It was September when they went into production. So yeah, I think for the non-foundation, there we should be able to see people taking delivery of non-foundation series vehicles in Q1 2025. But if you want the anything other than the Cyber Beast or the dual motor, I think you're waiting well into
Uh,
2026.
Scott, Walter, Scott, can you
There's
hear us?
to the F-150 Lightning. If you had a choice between the Silverado and the F-150 Lightning, which one would you take, irregardless of cost or anything else, just looking at functionality?
So Scott, you were rugging a little bit, but I heard you say
Okay,
something wrong.
let's
F-150
try that
Lightning
again.
versus
Yeah,
Chevy.
yes, which one would you take? Not worrying about the cost, but just looking at the features and the benefits.
I can't answer the Lightning yet because I haven't driven the Lightning. That's gonna be my next one next week. Because I'm gonna compare the Lightning to that. But I mean, I have an F-150 myself, Platinum, and I could tell you that that truck has been great to me. It's a 2017 model. I've had it from the beginning, and I can only see that they've gotten that much better since I've owned the F-150. But that's gonna be my next comparison. But if I had here's the thing: if I had $10 million, I had no money for reserves, no money for any kind of craziness to say it's a limited amount of money, I definitely would get the Silverado. It's a hell of a truck. The
Yeah.
steering wheel, you can actually turn on and off the rear wheel steering. When I was getting at the fly-by-wire, I'm in aviation, so that's my background. By the steer-by-wire, you still have to turn the steering wheel, like I think one full rotation to make a
It's
turn.
regular steering, yeah.
But if you guys haven't driven the Cybertruck, it's pretty cool. Like Andy, is he German? He let me drive his Cybertruck, and you literally turn the steering wheel, the column, a quarter of a turn, and that's as far as you can go. I'm like, this is insane. Like again, it goes back to the technology that Tesla's developed in this truck. It's phenomenal. It is. I have to say, both trucks are great. I'm still leaning Tesla at this point. If you don't like the Cybertruck look, your next best bet is going to be the Silverado. I will be
Well,
driving the Ford next week, so I'll compare that. But
so I'll speak from afar on that, Scott, as the person that spent many more hours watching other people do this stuff and talking about it on YouTube and other places. Pound for pound, the Silverado definitely has it, but the F-150 has options. You don't have to go for the top dog anymore, so you can get a lower cost option. But if you're gonna do truly truck things, if you're that 5% of people that say I have to have my truck, like where 98% of people driving their trucks never use truck things, they barely haul anything, they never tow anything. But if you're that 5% of people that I got to tow, I'm gonna haul, there's no doubt about it. Right now the king is the Chevy Silverado when it comes to that particular piece.
I don't know if I agree with that, Scott.
It's
Scott,
math, brother.
go ahead, and Scott, and then I want to comment on that, and Mishka. Scott, can you hear us?
Oh yeah, I can. My little experiment here of walking north with the backpack facing south is causing a lot of rugs. So basically, I'm wearing my backpack like a mommy backpack, like a baby beyond or something like that. So it's facing north, so maybe it won't rug quite as much. But yeah, the main thing I want to know is if anyone is able to compare the two, because I know some people that have the 150 Lightning and they love it as a work truck. They love all the outlets and everything else in it.
Yeah, I could tell you, man. The outlet thing is a huge thing for me on the F-150 that I had the Platinum. But I mean, the short experience I had with the Cybertruck, and my friend Dave that towed that 11,000 pound boat the other day in California. He showed a picture of that. I had it on my profile. I mean, I think they're like for like, because here's the thing: like in any ICE truck, in any gas powered truck, if you tow anything, you're going to lose efficiency and gas. You're just going to eat up more gas. The same thing with EV vehicles. People are saying, "Oh, your EV vehicle is going to eat up so much, electric power when you're towing something." Well, it's the same concept with gas. You're going to eat up more gas. So if you compare to, F-150 can tow, I think, 12,000 pounds, or you think you're supposed to be at 80% of that, but you're gonna eat a lot of gas up. And when it comes to the Silverado and the Cybertruck, the only difference is the Cybertruck, I think's got the Silverado's got a better battery right now.
It's got about 100 more kilowatts. It's 123 to 230 something.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, like if you're doing this for long trips, that might be your better option right now, until the Cybertruck comes up with that extended Ranger, which is what, an extra $16,000, I think.
Yeah, and you got to remember there's the V2 of the 4680 that is finally actually going to be bearing fruit and almost looking like double-digit percentage efficiencies. So the 4680 is definitely coming up and coming. There's some great people doing breakdowns on that. So I think it's just going to get better. We're like at the beginning of the CT.
Yeah, and guys, if you guys have any questions, come on up and repost this for us. Go to Purple Pill. We had to restart the space because the first one we had some technical issues. So if you want to go back to the Purple Pill, just hit repost. We appreciate it.
Yeah, Ryan, I'll just talk a little bit about ice efficiency. And I was pretty used to making this trip from Michigan down to Florida all the time, so I knew exactly when all our petrol stops were going to be along there. And so we made the trip a lot of times, and we had full luggage, both my kids in the car and everything else. And then we actually got a place down here. We were starting to do it, and we weren't moving so much. And there was a couple of trips with just my wife and myself, so we didn't have all the normal luggage. We didn't have the mass of the two kids, and I actually took the seat out in the very back of the minivan because it was just kind of taking up unnecessary room. And so that thing is also pretty heavy. And I was suddenly surprised that we get like almost another 50-mile range out of the ICE vehicle. And we weren't even towing anything. So that tells you a lot about that. So, I was hitting gas stations I was never able to get to before when I was going down. So that's how you really kind of notice it. And, that's when the car was much older and should not be getting as good performance as when it was brand spanking new.
Yeah, I mean, there's a great app called a Better Route Planner app that I've used that Andy actually turned me on. Let me show you your hand. I'll get to you in a second. It's called the Better Route Planner app. Phenomenal app. You can actually put the parameters for any EV. It doesn't have to be Tesla. And you can say, hey, I have, say, for example, we'll use a Tesla Model 3, long range, blah, blah, blah. What year? It has already the configuration for you. You put in how much extra weight on top of the driver are you adding on there, because that makes a difference. And then you can customize it and say, hey, I want to get to such and such superchargers as I'm going through my cross-country road trip. I want to get to each supercharger at 3%. And it'll plan everything out for you that way. It's a really good planning app. Mishka, go ahead.
Are you home yet?
Mishka?
Yeah.
Fishka, fix it. Are you home? You have been like the fucking
Okay, well,
Scarlet
should we maybe
Pimpernel.
drop him down to listener and bring him back up?
I think he's having trouble hearing you. Hang on, Mishka.
Let's see, remove.
You
I'm
want
going
to
to put him
drop
down
down and
speaker
come
for a
back up?
second. Come on back up, Mishka. But yeah, so kind of going back to finishing on the Silverado, and then we got a few more things I want to get into. I want to talk about some apps that are phenomenal for your EVs. In addition to the Starlink situation that I had, I test drove the Starlink for, I want to say 7,500 miles. We're still doing some hard testing on it to try to get the perfect live streaming scenario for people that want to live stream while they're mobile. Yeah, so to finish up on the Silverado, I'm looking at the window sticker. He printed it out for me. It's $97,400 for the Silverado. This is the 2024 model EV RST. This is their fully loaded one. The big thing is this: if you want their Cruise, which is equivalent to the free version of Tesla FSD, the auto steer, it's going to cost you $25 a month. You can get a discount by prepaying for 3 years at $2,200 up front. That's their two options. That's kind of pricey. I don't know if it's worth it for having that kind of cruise control. And again, you buy a Tesla, you get that for free. You get the free FSD. It's called Auto Steer. They have pretty much the same functionalities up and down suspension. You can customize. Great sounds.
Oh, you forgot to mention they have NACS now.
What's that?
For $225. They should have NACS connector now. You can use the Tesla charge system.
Yeah.
But I don't think so. Do they have the NACS connector in there?
No.
Or did you have to buy it?
Well, so I was gonna test drive. So guys, I did film my test drive. I'll be posting it up tomorrow on my account. So you can actually see what the whole thing looks like and everything like that. And I went through the whole charging system. We went through the supercharger. And I do want to get into the supercharger platform that they have. No, Scott, I couldn't use it because I didn't have the right adapter. But I mean, it's pretty simple. It's on the same side as a Tesla. You just back right into it. It's in the back.
Yeah, but he was making fun of the fact that if GM is not giving out the adapter like
Ford you have to,
everybody else.
If you want to be part of this supercharger station, there's an additional cost right there on top of your 97 grand. Now here's a kicker.
It's an optional extra.
It's an optional extra. Here's a kicker to their media center. They don't have Apple Play anymore. They got rid of Apple Play. No more Apple Play. I say that because their music choices are Sirius XM, and I think they're getting ready to add Spotify if they haven't already. They don't have Apple Music yet, and they don't have anything else. And they don't have Apple Play.
Nothing.
Now,
and they got rid of Apple Play.
They got rid of that. CarPlay. I meant CarPlay.
CarPlay. That's the
Who
only
cares?
reason.
Who cares if you've got Bluetooth? Who cares?
Well, so
integration.
So the CarPlay is pretty cool because a lot of people like using Apple Maps. So which gets me to the map system of the Silverado. They use Google Maps. One of the worst systems I've seen so far that I've driven was the Ioniq, the Hyundai system. Their monitor in the center dash is about, I want to say, a third of the size of a Tesla. And it's so archaic that you literally, when you squeeze, with your fingers to zoom in and zoom out, it's that choppiness, that and it's like it jitters. Like you squeeze too far, and it'll like squeeze all the way. You zoom out too much, it'll super zoom out. Like it's not a very smooth flow like the iPhone or the Tesla monitor. Their system is better. It still has a little bit of that choppiness to it, but it's better. There's a bit of a delay sometimes when you click on buttons, but it's better. Their supercharger network that they use is Google Maps. Is it good? Yeah, it's
So,
not bad.
Ryan, you've been somewhat like the Scarlet Pimpernel, but I'm glad you made it home safely. Ginny, great to see you. Just wanted to say hello. In the UK,
Well,
it's
Mishka, do
part
me a
of
favor.
Google.
Let me finish this up, and I'll let you speak real quick. Give me
Okay,
1 second. So with the Google system that they have, and you got me off track, Mishka. With the Google system that they have, it's not bad. It's not bad at all. You can plan your routes. It'll get you to the whole, from point A to point B. If you want to go from Washington to Georgia, it'll plan the whole thing for you. You are on at the liberty of using what's that app called, Scott? The Electrify America or something like that.
No, it's the charge point.
Yeah, but it's called Electrify America, I think, right?
Well,
Something like that.
Well, ChargePoint uses it's Electri America and ChargePoint. Let me get you that.
Okay, so it's not bad. You don't have the ability to do much, but then again, in the Tesla, it's on the same boat. Except Tesla just points out all the superchargers. I don't think they have a filter yet that I've seen where you can do just superchargers. That's all you wanted to do. So it'll kind of plan out things to different chargers for you, but it's not a bad system. So that's why I say if you are going to look for getting a truck, and if you don't like the Cybertruck, the Silverado is a freaking great option. It's a great option. Sorry, go ahead, Mishka. You had something you wanted to say.
Yes. Well, there's a couple of things I was going to say. You didn't answer my question that I DM'd you, which was kind of trying to get you to, I don't know, estimate over the course of your road trip what sort of time you spent sitting at superchargers. And I'm not trying to be a dick.
That's a great
I
question. That's a really good question. That's actually that was such a that's you just brought up a whole nother space for us to have, but I'll touch on it right now.
Real quick before you get on this,
Yeah.
According to Hyundai's website, it is Electrify America is their partner. So I'm sorry if that's what you're stuck with. Electrify America is garbage, but there's ways around that.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have a bad experience with them when I test drove it, but I heard other people have issues with them as well. By the way, Scott Walters is in Florida right now on a beach testing out the Starlink MINI. I test drove it across the country at 90. He's test driving it on the beach at 2 miles an hour walking, and he's getting great reception. So I think it works for both type of people, the traveler and the
Road warrior,
the mojito
brother.
drinker.
well,
But that's
so some of your videos were somewhat choppy, but that would be because you're going through like mountainous terrain.
It was
so
learning
you're not
stuff.
going to get clear line of sight.
So a lot of the video that I was testing, we have a whole system in the car, so there's features and settings that I was playing around with the whole time when I was driving across country to see which one works the best, and we're still doing a lot of testing on it. We got some bugs ironed out, but we're still in the process of getting it finalized. But as far as to answer your question, Mishka, the trip with the superchargers, this is my first road trip. This was a learning experience. My first time going from Washington to wherever the next charger was, I think I had so much headwind. I had so much. I think I was going like 85 and 80 or 90 and 85, whatever it was. And I just saw my percentage saying, "Hey, you're going to arrive at this supercharger at 20%." Okay, cool, no problem. I looked down like 15 minutes later. Hey, you're going to arrive at this supercharger at 10%. I'm like, oh shit. I'm freaking out now, like, because there's a point of no return, right? You leave one supercharger, you get to the next supercharger, they could be 80 to 100 miles away. There's a point of no return where you get halfway to the center of it. So I phoned a
Yeah, you're
friend,
going
which
to
is
be running
Andy.
on memories.
You're going to be pushing that Cybertruck, and then you'll be on X with the meme behind you. But I called Andy, and we worked through it because it was dropping. I was losing 1% a mile when normally I would get 3.5 miles for 1% of charge. So what I ended up doing is, after a lot of trial and error, not only did I learn to get to the supercharger at about 0%, it took a while for me to get my anxiety over it, but I learned how to get between 0 and 3% to a supercharger. I'll tell you why in a second. But I also found a sweet spot for my car. The sweet spot where it kind of matches a range is about 70 to 75 miles an hour, depending on the conditions of the weather, obviously. But as I started slowing down, and you think about it, that's just like any gas car. The faster you go, the more gas you're going to use. The big difference is this: in a gas car, there's 3 to 4 gas stations every few miles, every exit. With an EV car right now, there's a charger every 50, 80, 100 miles. So you got to start planning this out, because if you go too fast and you start eating that up, you're going to get screwed. So I took the liberty to learn the range anxiety through Andy. He kind of coached me through that, where one, I found a sweet spot of going 70 miles an hour in my car. And two, I learned how to get to the supercharger at 0 to 3%. And here's why. As I watched my car charge from the last 7,500 miles that I drove, I noticed that from 0 to about 25, 30, I'm at a 250 kilowatt supercharger. It's at 250, 255. After 30%, it drops down to 220. After 40%, like 190. After 50%, you're like 180. After 60%, you're like, you're dropping. I think after 60%, it drops down to like 80 kilowatts. So what I used to do is I would get to the charger at 20 or 30% and charge up to 80. Now I get to the charger from 0% and charge up to 50. I still put in the same 50%, which gives me my 33-hour drive that I want, because I want to stop every 3 hours. But I'm not staying at the supercharger that much longer, because it starts slowing down significantly the more charge you have.
Like, my
So
guess
I
is
So what
you
I was going to
probably
say,
had
not all
time to what?
chargers are created equal.
Well, you had
no, and
time
you
to.
really have to. And
Sorry.
just to summarize it up, I would say on average, I spend about 20 to 25 minutes per charger. Now, if you think about that as a family of 3 or 4, especially if you go to a Buc-ee's, you're going to spend an hour at Buc-ee's for one. But if you go to a gas station with a family of 3 or 4, you're going to on average spend 15
Well,
minutes with a family in and out of that gas station. So in that
hypothetically, if you're
fit,
traveling
What's a
with two
Bucky's?
dogs, right? If you're traveling with two dogs, you're always going to stop longer than that 15 or 20 minutes as well, right?
yeah, I mean, I had 2 dogs that I had to let out when I was an older one, but if you're traveling with a family, you're going to be on average. I mean, Andy can tell you. Andy's been traveling with this family quite a bit. You're going to spend 10, 15, 20 minutes at a gas station easily. If you go to a Buc-ee's, which is like a Walmart and TJ Maxx and a Home Goods on steroids at a gas station, and a grocery store mixed together with a bakery and a fudge factory, you're going to spend an hour, 45 minutes to an hour there easily. I mean, unless you're in a rush. But
Maybe in
yeah, pretty
America,
equivalent.
not here. Like fuck.
So, all
Take
right,
a piss, get back
Mishka,
in, we're off.
Hey,
Mishka,
Mishka, let's watch your mouth, Mishka, because
we're,
I'm
we're
streaming on YouTube, if you don't mind.
yeah, we're doing that, and
Sorry,
we're trying to keep it
sorry, I apologise.
more comment format. But to answer the question that I heard you inject before you drop back in, no, not all chargers are created equal. That is another layer that maybe Ryan can talk about. But you do need to be cognizant of the charging rate of the chargers you're going to. If the time is such a big deal, whether it's a 150, 250, etc. So you have the car to consider and
Well,
what it can
yeah.
take,
What
and then you
can
have
your
the
car
charger
can
itself. Yeah.
accept a higher charge?
Well, we have a problem in America where there's many people driving around with EVs that can only take 50, maybe 100 kilowatt inputs. They don't understand any of this stuff, but they have their little Chevy Bolts and they have their little BMW i3s that could take 50 to 100 kilowatts, and they'll set on the 350s and kind of ruin the experience for everybody and wonder why their charger doesn't
I
work
honestly,
better.
Scott, I've been through so many chargers in the last 3 weeks. I've never had an issue with waiting for a charger. Granted, I'm on a supercharger network for Tesla, but I've never had one issue. And I think, Mishka, across the country, I hit about 27 superchargers. Yeah, I would say total about 2,800 miles. I probably spent 20, like I said, 24 minutes per supercharger on average, which is, not bad. I mean, I need to get out every few hours anyway because of, just to stretch the legs and let the dogs out. But if anybody's got any
But
questions, feel free to
not
come up. I don't want you guys to. We're doing this for you guys. If you have any
sorry.
questions, feel free to interject and see if you have any questions about EVs versus ICE cars. I know there's a big hesitation with me going to an EV for the first time. I'm still going to keep my ICE truck. I'm not going to get rid of my F-150. But I do like the fact that I have an EV. I do like the fact that I save myself close to $1,000 a month in gas, which I was
And
spending on my truck.
I'm with you, Ryan. I'm going to keep my WRX. It gets 100 miles to a tank.
But you wouldn't let him
Super
drive it
premium.
though.
So I have to keep my my ICE car as well, just for comfort levels, because I need I need to drop $45 for every 100 miles. But that's a hot rod and obviously a joke. So do we want to transition in? Do you want to talk more about your Ioniq, or the Silverado? Do we
Honestly,
want to
man,
get into
let's
Starlink?
we can wrap up the Silverado and Ioniq because I can tell you there's not much on the Ioniq that I would recommend. I hate to say it. I don't mean to dog Hyundai down, but it's
Wait,
just a piece
here's
of garbage.
now
And
here's where I will counter
here's
you,
why.
Ryan. I will say this: if you are interested in an EV, you're a hot boy fan, the Ioniq 5N is a car that you should consider. It is $65,000, and you'll regret not buying a model.
68,000,
Yeah,
68,000 starting.
and you will regret not buying a Model Y Performance Refresh if you were me. But that is the one hot boy EV that's not in the 6-digit range that I could and would recommend to people, even though it does all the wing, 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 and fall shifting and all that shit. But it is a genuine good car.
Yeah, it's $68,000, and I don't want to dog Hyundai. I'm sure there's lots of fans out there, but for the price point, man, when I saw the sticker price and the amount of miles you get on a range, and here's the other thing too, the updates. They give you free updates for 2 years on your car, and then you have to start paying for it. So here's the thing that Scott Walters really hit on when we were talking about these extra small new charges, right? These extra. By the way, we have two hidden listeners. I want to invite Yaman to the floor because I know one of them is Yaman, the other one's Omar. So I just want to invite you guys to the floor. This is a friendly space. I think the small little add-ons add up quickly. So, for example, the bumper-to-bumper warranty on the Silverado is your basic 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty, right? With the Tesla, I think I have 50,000-mile warranty, so they give you the basic for that. And then if you want the extended warranty with Tesla, it's $2,000. You buy it on the app. With if you guys all purchased cars before, they all try to upsell you the extended warranty, and you're paying anywhere from $3,000 to $4,000 for the bumper to bumper extended warranty. And then obviously every EV, excuse me, every EV is regulated by the government to offer a 8-year, 100,000-mile minimum warranty on the batteries here in the United States. And Tesla goes above that. Like my Tesla Model 3 has a 120,000-mile warranty on the battery. But these
They
manufacturers like
actually
Chevy and
they do things like
Hyundai
this.
do the
The
basics.
Cybertruck has unlimited mile powertrain, 8-year unlimited miles on. So that's an example of Tesla going above and beyond. But every single Tesla is 4-year, 50,000-mile basic warranty, and for less than $2,000, you can add a much more comprehensive extended warranty.
Yeah, so those are the little tiny features that you start adding up. So you get a Cybertruck you get a Silverado for $97,000 plus change. Add the extended warranty package. I'll sell you for about on top of that. Add the charger adapter that you have to buy. That's another $500, $300 to $500. All these little small things add up. But you want the Blue or the Super Cruise, $2,500 on top of that, where Tesla gives you that free version of the autopilot if you're just joining for free, which keeps you on the highway perfectly fine for free. So it kind of goes back to I'm not promoting FSD because I've been a very big critic of FSD. I love the fact that it's going to get there one day. I don't like how some people promote it.
I'll
It's
promote
not
it.
there,
I'll
but
promote it right here
the
on our space.
software
I'll promote it.
the software end of it is the Tesla software end of it is phenomenal. It's like nothing I've ever seen before in a car.
Yeah, Tesla's the benchmark. They are the baseline. You're right. That's what everybody's in China, in America. That's what everybody's trying to do is emulate the Tesla software. Whether they're Rivian, whether they're Lucid, whether they're a legacy. Tesla is the baseline. They're who everybody needs to be if they want to be anybody. With FSD, I'm sorry, I have 12. I have hardware for 12.5.1.3, and it is magic. And I will talk almost like Omar. It's not perfect, but it is amazing, and it is so far beyond what anybody else can do. That's the one reason right there. FSD is the reason I would not buy anything but a Tesla, personally.
Well, let's kind of move on to the Starlink Mini. I don't know what Scott's doing, but if you guys have any questions, shoot, give me a shout on them.
Yeah. I finished my walk and I'm back on the normal. So I was out there for a little bit more than an hour, and my basis is showing that it has 57% remaining. So I used 43% of the pack. So I guess that means that pack might give you at least 2 hours, maybe a bit more, depending on what you're doing. I have a feeling being in a spaces like this, there's a lot more uploading going on. The connection is there. I seem to remember looking at the data rates that I consume a lot of data when I'm on a spaces, especially if I'm a host or co-host or speaker, as opposed to just listening. So that might be part of the reason it ate that much. So I guess we can say you can safely get 2 hours out of it, and maybe a little bit more depending upon the
And looking
situation.
at that power bank, I think you can stack those, Scott.
Yeah. You could probably get a couple of, like I say, it's very light. And the other thing that Sifmaster pointed out, it's only like, I think $70 on Amazon. It's a deal. I went to a bunch of other places and usually they're like $199 for things that are smaller. So it's really pretty good. It has two USBs, two A's and two B's as far as outputs. And you can charge, and I think you could, because you get the two USBs that are out there, you could be running your Mini and charging your phone at the same time.
And the cool thing too, I noticed on the Starlink website, if you go on there, because I'm driving, so I have weather to deal with outside. So here's the thing I want to talk about with the Starlink, where I put my dish. I put my dish on the outside of the car because I drove the first 2,800 miles from Washington to Georgia on the inside, and I had it suction cupped to where the center of the glass is on a Tesla. And I kept getting this obstruction message, although it was perfectly fine. I kept washing the outside of the glass, but because it's tinted so much with the UV ray blockage, I would constantly get this obstruction message. It wouldn't kill the signal, but it would make it very weak. The second I put my Starlink Mini on the outside of my car, I started going from 90 to 100 to 150 to 180. I think I peaked a couple times at 210 megabytes a second, which was like unheard of. Like, for us to have that kind of technology while driving 90 miles an hour is surreal to me.
Is it a
It's really
heated
cool.
windscreen?
No,
Is it a heated windshield?
We put it on the bumper. We mounted it to the bumper bracket where the license plate goes, so it's facing straight back.
Yeah, so it's not. You want to make sure it's pointed north. So if you're traveling east, you want to point it a certain way. If you're traveling west, you point it a certain way, and so forth. But no, the part that I had it inside the car was not near the heated section. That would probably cause a little. That actually might have been a little bit better because that part's not tinted.
Yeah,
And the
it's
heat's
the
not
roof
on.
and stuff.
But I have to say,
So
outside of the
heated
car was
front
pretty good.
windshields.
No, it's not a tinted front windshield. It's the stock. It's the stock
heated.
roof. Yeah,
No,
it's the stock roof.
but
Though.
if you've got the elements for defrosting the front windshield, all of
The front
those.
windshield for the element is just heat, hot air coming out. So there's no there's no metal heat elements coming into it on the front.
Some cars have got like an electric, a bit like the rear windscreen, but it's kind of a microfilament that goes through the windshield, and it basically buggers up like GPS for sat nav.
No, it's not that. It's just the metallized streams in the film itself, in the roof of the Teslas, just to keep heat out. But Ryan, keep going with what you were doing with the antenna.
Yeah, so I put it on the outside of the car, and I started getting phenomenal range, phenomenal. No more obstruction messages. Not, you do have to have line of sight, but the system that I'm testing that I have on my car is a mixture of a few things. It's not just a Starlink Mini. So as we're working out the bugs with the OEM and the other, we have 3 or 4 different vendors that are a part of this project. Once we figure out the bugs, we'll be testing some more next week. But once we figure that out, it'll be a pretty cool system to share with you guys on what you can use if you want to drive across the world or across the United States at least, and be able to stream if you wanted to share your story. So it's gonna be a pretty fun project that we're putting together.
It was
But yeah,
a lot of fun watching the videos that you put out.
Yeah, did anybody
yeah.
see Ryan go? Ryan went big time. He one of his live streams hit 15,000 viewers. That was pretty impressive. I was most impressed. Ryan called me. I was on a pier down in Ocean City, New Jersey, baiting a hook with some bloodworms to do some fishing with my wife and kids, and he calls and he had a mega stream going. It was so cool. Ryan,
Oh, it was
yeah.
crazy, man. Like so the worst, when they say things happen and the worst times, like what is it, Murphy's Law? My Starlink Mini disconnected, and as soon as I pulled over to reconnect my Mini, my dog is 17 years old. She's in diapers, and I bought the Tesla little hammock in the back for the dogs. She went through her diaper, and it was liquid number 2. So I'm cleaning all
Oh,
this up, and I had
she
a
did a
lot of
dirty
people.
protest.
Yeah, I had a lot of people. I had 150 people on there already, and I'm like, just give me a minute. I'll come back on in a second. Next thing I know, I look over and there's like 1,500 people. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? And I'm like, oh, I better get on camera because I don't know why this thing is like taking off. And the next thing I know, I'm driving at 2,000, 4,000, 10,000, 15,000 people are watching me live stream the Starlink Mini. And it was phenomenal. It was a cool time to share my experience on how to get to the supercharger at 0%. I think I did that. And then it was a great time to showcase the Starlink Mini, how it was like, it's not perfect. We're testing it out, testing the bugs out on the full system that we have, but it's pretty cool to have 180, 150, 200 megabytes a second download and 20 to 30 to 40 megabyte upload with anywhere from, like, I think I got as low as 16 to 24 millisecond latencies on there. And that's kind of like what you're looking for
Whilst
live
holding your
streaming.
nose and trying not to gag.
While holding my nose. Yeah. So I do want
You just have to go on.
I do want to kind of move on to the last bit of our topic. I did want to say, Scott, I forgot to tell you, Scott Walters. So the Starlink now has the USB-C to power sold on their website.
Correct.
And
Correct.
they have the Ethernet to Ethernet sold on their website. And why is that important? Because if you just plug in a regular adapter, or if you try to do some makeshift stuff, like with my dish being on the outside of the car, in all the weather elements from rain to sun. With the Ethernet, if you plug in a regular Ethernet, it's going to expose that connector to the weather elements. And as you're going, 70, 80 miles an hour or whatnot, it's going to eventually get in there. That water will get in there. It will corrode your parts, and everything will stop working at some point. So it's important to get that on. Especially, I would spend a few bucks more and get it on the Starlink website. One, it supports the company because they're doing a phenomenal job, I think. And two, they know what they're doing. They're going to design something that's going to be pretty foolproof for you guys. So I do want to promote that because I just did notice that, and I bought mine, and I think I actually ordered mine. No, I had the other one when I was at your house, Scott. But I just put the other one on, and it's great. It's a great system to put in. And I think they're like $30.
Right.
So I was curious, did the one that you were using when we were looking at that, did you have any kind of intrusion in your short trip though? Sorry.
No, I didn't. The only thing I kept having an issue with, because I temp installed it on my trunk, because where the wiring goes, where I had the wiring rigged. Every time the trunk would open up, it would pull on the freaking on the power cable and on the Ethernet cable.
Oy.
So by the time I'm driving, just a little bit more vibration, the thing disconnects. I'm like, oh, why is this thing all choppy all of a sudden? And Scott, you installed that magnet for me, so you know how hard it is. I have to unscrew those little tiny screws in the back, and I had to pop everything back in, and then it happened again. I'm like, geez, I couldn't catch a break. So
Yeah, I was wondering how that was going to work
Okay.
out.
So you weren't using the Wi-Fi, the built-in Wi-Fi. You were using the Ethernet.
I was. So I have a system where my Ethernet goes. It's a proprietary system with Starlink that they partnered with for the system that I was using, and then everything else was connected through some additional wiring and Wi-Fi.
So basically, to point out that in the back of the Starlink, there are two ports. There's the normal port, which is a barrel plug port it comes with the normal wire that goes in there, and you need a 110, so it plugs into a 110. And that barrel jack port has a gasket on it that gives it, I think, IP56 rating, so there's not going to be any water intrusion. The Ethernet port comes with a plug already in there to plug that hole to make sure you don't get any water intrusion. But you're right, if you were going to decide to purchase an Ethernet plug to go in there, you could probably use any Ethernet plug, but it won't be IP56. The plug that you're going to get directly from Starlink will have the gasket in there, and it's going to be sealed, especially if you're outside. But for standard usage, you don't need the Ethernet unless you plug it into some special equipment. So like what I was doing tonight is I was just using the Wi-Fi that's built in. It went straight to my phone. I didn't have to do anything else with it. But I did need the special wiring, and that is I needed a barrel jack to USB-C plug, and they're kind of hard to find. I think if you go into Amazon, there are people that are selling them right now that are shorter length cables. The question is whether they really work. I don't know. They're a little bit cheaper, maybe like 24, 25 bucks. On the Starlink website, I think they're 33 bucks. And I noticed that when I plugged it into my Model Y, I thought I had USB PD in the Model Y, because I know some of the Model Ys have that right now, and definitely the newer Model 3s do. When I plugged it in, I was getting a red LED on the port. I'm like, I've never seen this before. And I thought it was actually in the Tesla itself, and I realized, no, it's actually on the plug. And the plug was telling me, you're not producing enough voltage out of this port. When I plugged that into the basis, which is able to output the correct voltage, then that red LED did not come on. So that means it's a little bit better than the standard one. It will tell you that, this is not a PD plug. You need to use something else.
And I was looking at it. Remember I told you I bought those little car plugs, and they had the PD output, the Archers, I think they were Archers, whatever they are. And I bought the cords as well that had the PD 100 on there, and it still didn't work for me. So I'm curious to see what this. They were on back order, so I bought the PD. I bought the USB-C power cord from Starlink. I'm going to see if it'll work on the. I don't think it'll work because
it'll work in the Cybertruck for sure. Because I know it works in the Cybertruck. The older Model 3s and Ys probably not. Mine's a 22, so it's considered an older model. I think the Refresh 3 does have the PD. I don't know if the current Model Y does, or whether that's going to be the Juniper.
I don't think it does.
I heard the ones that are inside the. I'll have to go test it. I heard the ones inside the armrest, the console, are those.
Yeah.
But
no, they're not. They don't. I checked all of them.
No,
at least in as of March 22. In the new one, perhaps.
I have a 2024.
Then you probably have it. Then the armrest, I think they all are.
Find a way to test that, and I can.
I
can't find documentation.
I read on your 2024 that I believe you have I don't know what the wattage is on there, but I think the other ones in the car are like 13 or something like that. And I just couldn't see a cord that small have a step up, system in there, transformer in there to step up the power that much on the wattage on the USB-C. I don't think it'll be able to pull any of that in there.
Yeah, because it's a question of whether it's outputting 12 volts or whether it's outputting like 48. Because the Cybertruck is 48 volt system, but you're right. I would think that in the Y and the 3 being 12 volt system, do they step it up to more than 12 volts?
I don't know. We can do some Ohm's law and bore everybody to death if you want, Scott.
Yeah, they might go 12 volts, but they may not produce like the 40 watts or whatever that the Mini is demanding.
We can test that. I had to. My power company is so bad here in South Jersey, Atlantic City Electric, and they rip us off so bad. I just bought a Siemens full panel monitoring system that's going to monitor the main and all that other stuff. So I feel like doing the same thing to the Tesla, like make sure we're getting what we're paying for. Yeah.
Well, let's. If you guys, I want to kind of touch base real quick on the topics we'll talk next week. One thing I want to talk about next week is going to be the apps that you use for your road trips. If anybody's got any questions, please come up. And again, Yaman and Omar, I know you guys are over there, hidden listeners. Feel free to come up. I do. This is a family-friendly space. We're not going to do a 10 words or less for you.
I will.
Okay, that's right. I'm not host this week, so you might be shit out of luck.
But
shoot out of luck. Sorry.
Anybody that wants to come ask us questions, come on. This is for everybody, not for us to jabber jabber.
So you mentioned the Starlink MINI. Does it require like an inverter to get 110 volts, or can you power it like PoE?
No. You can do it a bunch of ways. So it comes with a 110 volt that steps it down to probably like the 40 or 30 volts that it actually requires. So it's producing a DC output. So you can input 12 volt DC up to 40 volt DC, or maybe even up to the 48 volts DC, and it'll be happy with it. And the Mini will step it up if you're only giving it 12, because I think it wants to operate at 40 or 48 volts. What I found is that I could get a 12 volt to barrel jack, and that's what works in my Model Y, because the USB ports don't produce enough. But the standard 12 volt, that's all you need. So you do not have to get like a 12 volt to a 110 and plug into that, because all you're doing is stepping up and then stepping down.
Yeah, that's all I wanted to know. Because so many electronic devices are essentially running on between 12 and 24 volts. And so the whole idea of having a transformer to go from 12 DC through an inverter to then whatever it's
110 AC.
Yeah, exactly.
To go from 110 AC
to convert it back.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's why I said I'm going straight to the 12 volt.
Well, exactly. It's the only other thing I was gonna say, you guys must be aware of a certain Mr. Clarkson.
No, that's a UK thing. We don't watch that guy here. Jeremy's banned in America.
Seriously?
Yeah, he's canceled.
He's making stuff up, but yeah, I don't want to get too political on here, Mishka. But
No, I'm not getting political.
Jeremy Clarkson,
but I'm not gonna tell you the story of a friend of mine that put a fighter aircraft on his front lawn. But the trucks that you have over in the States are somewhat different to what we have over here. And all I would say is go and Google. You know what a Range Rover is. So the wigged out Range Rover is an Overfinch. Just have a look at the episode where he's driving an Overfinch.
I just want to say real quick, we got Habib, and I just saw Miss Tanya in the room, and Tay Ray and Paul. I haven't seen Paul in a while. Guys, thanks for coming on. Feel free to repost if you'd like. We had a bit of an error technical.
Man. Like, does anybody have questions? Questions about the EVs, about the Ioniq, about the Silverado, and how much they suck because they're not Teslas? Anybody? Nobody has any questions. That's the whole point.
They don't suck.
Oh well, they do. So here's the thing. Here's my lowdown. I have a work car. It's a 2023 brand new Traverse. It's got like 6,000 miles. Doesn't cost me anything, right? It doesn't cost me gas, insurance. I didn't pay for it. It's still a piece of shit. It's a big plastic Lego car that I appreciate having. I'm very grateful to have it. I'm not that disingenuous, but I will still prefer to drive my Model Y at my own expense over my free car. And when we were in the Silverado EV, I thought this is really nice. This is a really nice truck. It's fancy. It looks pretty, but it's still plasticky. It didn't remind me of any more quality than my $37,000 Traverse that my company bought versus the $37,000 Model Y Performance that I just bought, which was far superior. And like when we got out of that truck and got back in my car, I was like, okay, it's not this. It's not a Tesla. So yeah. I mean,
Habib, I wanted to ask you a question. We finished up on the Silverado, but have you test drove the Silverado before?
Hey, how's everyone doing? I'm assuming you're asking about the EV Silverado, correct?
yes,
Yeah, we
sir.
were just talking about the Silverado EV. I just drove it for the first time, and I wanted to get your opinion on it if you've had an opportunity to drive it.
No, I actually haven't. I'm sorry I missed that part of the space. Could you give me the quick, 2-minute recap or the 1-minute recap on it? What'd you think?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the Silverado is a phenomenal truck. If you're not a Cybertruck owner, it's the next best thing. It's 97K. It's got the rear wheel tires to turn. It's got the suspension you can lift up and down. The software nowhere near comparison to the Tesla. Tesla is still superior to the software in my opinion. No CarPlay. You're stuck to listening Sirius XM, and I think Spotify got approved. They don't have Apple Music yet. You can do Bluetooth through your phone, obviously, which is an option. The charging stations, they use Google Maps for it, which is not a bad situation. Again, nothing compares to the Tesla software. I'm not comparing the FSD because obviously it's a whole different software. But they do have that Super Cruise, which is, in my opinion, I drove it. It's $25 a month or $2,200 for 3 years. You have those two options if you want to prepay. But their Super Cruise is equivalent to the auto steer beta on your Tesla. It will drive you on the highway. It'll make the lane turns for you. It's got this little interesting way of alerting you. The steering wheel lights up on the very top, green or red, if you're not paying attention. And the seat will vibrate. So if you're not used to the seat vibrating, that thing vibrates.
That's a GM thing. My Denali, my 2017 Denali did that too.
But outside of that, if you're not it's got the whole pass-through back seat.
So why is this any different than a Ford Lightning, minus the rear wheel steering?
230 kilowatt hours of battery pack, just range, baby, pure power.
That's a great. So I have not driven the Ford Lightning. Have you?
Yeah, I have, and actually the Ford Lightning is really awesome. If you're coming out of a ICE F-150 and you're going to go into an F-150 Lightning, it's a really great form factor. It's very familiar. It drives very well. It's got a lot of power, and people that are brand loyal are going to stick to that.
I love that because I have a Ford F-150 Platinum gas truck, and I was contemplating on the Lightning before I got my Tesla a year and a half ago. The reason I didn't go with the Lightning was because it was about $50,000 over MSRP during COVID. It was ridiculous how much they were upcharging that damn car. But it's funny because Scott Walters and the rest of the panel, we were trying to figure out how does the Lightning compare because I was going to be my car I was going to drive next week. But in terms of like the Blue Cruise, have you had an opportunity to drive their version of it? Does it cost money? Is it equivalent to like the auto steer free for Tesla?
No, I didn't get to use the Blue Cruise feature. And, that's comparing those autopilot features right now. For me, it's a little bit difficult. I haven't been able to drive a lot of them. But when it just comes to just the form factor of the vehicle, I can tell you it's very familiar. I've had an F-150 before, one of my first companies ever. I bought an F-150, and it rides very well. There's some features in that Ford that I like more than my Cybertruck. I was at Costco today. I put a case of water. I had to put it on the side. I had to put it sideways up in the front, and 2 bags of lemons and limes, and my trunk was filled basically. But it's a really cool product. And yeah, I remember when they first came out, it was so expensive. And right now, it's kind of sad, but these dealers are basically paying you to take them off the lot.
Yeah, because they don't know how to support them. Oh, Frank, the Silverado EV's front trunk is
Yes.
really massive. That is badass.
Yeah, I just had a couple observations from Everything Electric in Vancouver, where I got to sit in a Silverado, and I also drove a Cybertruck last week. But yeah, the Silverado frunk is very kind of long, so kind of deep, a far reach to get to the back of it, whereas the Lightning would be quite a bit wider. But they're both way bigger than Cybertruck. So yeah, that show was awesome. Getting to see all kinds of EVs. There was 35,000 people test driving about 70 EVs in Vancouver. It was a pretty incredible show. I don't know if anyone else
That's the
went.
one Sandy was helping host that, right?
I got to meet Sandy Monroe. I got to meet the Rivian interior product designer. Showed me the R3 and did a YouTube video about it. It was just a great time.
You know, something I've been trying to wrap my head around. It's kind of like one of those weird, like mental tricks that plays on you. Is where is all of the space in the Cybertruck? So when you sit in the F-150 Lightning, just from your physical position from there to the front of the truck, that distance is the same or relatively the same or very close to the distance between sitting in the Cybertruck and the front of the Cybertruck. And, you know, the bed is roughly the same. And so, you know, that whole length of the Cybertruck, I try to figure out where did it go as far as construction wise? Like, what is that space? Like, where did it go missing? And the one place I'll tell you there is a difference is in the back seat. The second row, or sorry, the back seat of the Cybertruck is by far more comfortable. It's much bigger. I'm 6'1". My kids love it more than my Model S. There's more room in there than even in the Model X. But that's something that's always kind of, I found it like to be like a little bit of an optical illusion is where did all that space get used up and what did it get used up for?
So that's an interesting question. And actually, a lot of it's used very efficiently. I watched too many teardown videos. The frunk area is actually kind of deceiving because as you're setting in your Cybertruck, Habib, I know you have one just like Andy does, as that big dash, you're looking out across part of the frunk. So the really all the frunk is just the crumple zone. It's just the open space where nothing needs to be, and it's the crumple zone. And then you have that gap between the back seat and then underneath the back seat and the bed, and that's where they put that air compressor, and that's some unused space for sure, where the air compressor is behind the back wall where it doesn't have the pass through. And but beyond that, there's not a terrible amount of unused space in the Cybertruck, which is kind of odd outside of like
Yeah,
body
but
panels.
that dash is huge. Tyra, you've had your hand up for a while. I know it got heavy as heck as you put it down. Go ahead and speak, brother.
G'day, guys. How's it going? Just wanted to ask a question. I just discovered, coming from a four-wheel drive enthusiast perspective, what do you guys think about the light bar being glued to the windscreen on the Cybertruck? Personally, I find that a very weird design choice. They don't even have a bracket that bolts it on, and you can't really remove it yourself once it's on. It's basically permanently glued. What do you guys think about that?
I could tell you I installed the light bar on my Ford F-150. I bought the rigid light bar. That's one of the better selling bars out there. I would never in a million years. And I could listen. Here's the thing though. I'm in aviation, right? In aviation, we glue a lot of shit on an airplane. Excuse me, I shouldn't curse. We glue a lot of
Yeah.
stuff on an airplane. Now, the adhesives they have from the chemicals they use with the engineers, some of that glue is temperature rated to be, peaked at temperatures you're never going to see um, on Earth, right? They're super high and super low in the cold. So I can't speak for that. Do I feel comfortable as a consumer gluing on a light bar? No.
Well, where do
Do
you
I?
think they got the glue from, though?
Do
They got
I?
the glue from SpaceX, just like the steel, right?
Yeah. Do I feel uncomfortable because I don't know anything about it? Yes. If I were to know that how that stuff worked, I feel more comfortable doing it myself. But knowing exactly what Scott said, if that became a product from a company that uses aviation and aeronautical devices, then I would feel confident in it. Just because I know how some of the adhesive we use in aviation sticks permanently, and it'll take a tow truck ripping it off to get it off. But to answer your question, as a consumer, I can totally see where you're coming from, Tay. It would not be easing on the mind knowing that something is glued on. But again, you have to take a look at where it's coming from. And Scott made a valid point. It's coming from a company that designs aeronautical stuff.
Yeah, so maybe Dr. Scott can chime in on this a little bit more, but I'm assuming that the glue has similar properties to the heat shields that they use on Starship. And there's a lot of stuff on vehicles that are glued, including the rear deck spoiler is not even glued. That's just a 3M, or I don't know if it's 3M, but it's just a double-sided sticky adhesive that they use. And so it may seem unsettling because when we think of glue, we think of, consumer grade glue that we may use in our home. But at the same time, this can be pretty secure, I think. And, like we use things like Loctite, which is, all the screws that hold the airbags, which are being launched with pyrotechnics. And those screws are all held in with Loctite glue and things like that. So I feel pretty comfortable with it.
And you got to remember that most modern cars, unibody cars, it's the body seam glue that basically adheres everything together. And we all see our cars painted, right? Everything's painted, so we don't see all the glue that actually is the binding force between the panels and the infrastructure of the unibody cars. So glue plays a major role in most modern
Yeah, like
cars.
the windshields,
Just
the front and rear windshields.
well, just the structure of the vehicle. Like if you have to take a panel off of a car, you have to take all of the it's a glue. It's the body seam glue but it looks filled in. So yeah, but would I glue a light to my $100,000 truck? Hell no. I'd buy one and bolt it to my
Yeah.
my
But Scott, why? Why not? Like your windshield, which is a major structural integral part of the vehicle, is glued
no.
on.
Well,
So what's the big deal?
just because I want the option to change it. So I want the big bearded truck and Tesla. Uh, the the uh, the guys that went to the Atlantic Ocean. I'm not trying to leave out bearded Tesla's compatriot, but
Teslatino,
Teslatino, yeah,
Raphael
right.
Teslatino, yep, and bearded
So
Tesla, yep.
I want a Cybertruck kitted out like that, and I want to bolt on my light, and I want to be able to upgrade my light without gluing it and ungluing it, and I just want to use the port on the top of the truck. So I wouldn't glue it, but I don't think it's a bad solution.
But here's the thing too on those, and I see Paul, you're next. Here's the thing on those light bars, man. I don't know. I've never sat in one in the Cybertruck. Habib, I don't know if you have one in there, but the thing, I think you said you have one. Um, but I know when I installed my rigid one on my F-150, man, you can hear that noise. You can hear that noise in that cabin. So maybe they designed that light bar to be specific for the truck, so it doesn't like hit the noise dBs while you're driving. Because I can tell you, when I put mine on my truck, I had to take it off at one point. I finally put the rigid pods on because it was just so damn loud, and the wind efficiency. You're talking about EV efficiency, cross country driving. That'll definitely impact your wind resistance and so forth.
Yeah, so I don't have the light bar yet, and I don't have the hubcaps for my truck. But on my fire department, we've had numerous vehicles before. We've had like Whelen light bars, which are like kind of like an afterthought light bar. They're not vehicle specific. Literally just held on with magnets. And they haven't really fallen off or anything like that. So, I think the light bar, if it's purpose designed specifically for the Cybertruck, I think it's going to be fine with the glue. And there probably will be some aftermarket options that may have some kind of bolt-on bracket or something. But yeah, I think it's going to be fine. I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Yeah, Paul, you're up next.
Yeah, if we were done with talking about the light bar, I was going to go back to talking about the tailgate and midgate, some differences between Silverado, Lightning, and Cybertruck. That's all right. Having just seen all three of them recently.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, definitely. I'm happy to go back to it. Mishka, you had a quick question before we get back into cars?
So all I was going to say about the light bar on the inside was the only pain in the ass is if your windshield, and if you get a busted windshield, that's when it's going to be a pain in the ass. And when you're talking about the next guy, Cybertruck, Silverado, I'd be curious to kind of get your guys' take on, the fifth wheel, where you can kind of haul things slightly heavier than normal, but from the bed of the truck. Is that a possibility?
We may get to that tonight, probably not.
Yeah, yeah, I think yeah, we can maybe touch on that real bit. I mean, I think anything's an option if you've been bedded in. I think all three trucks have a capacity to tow like hell. I think they're great. I think Habib has a great experience in the Ford Lightning. I have not driven that car, but I can tell you my Ford F-150. He's 100% right. I was so loyal to that truck because it was a great truck. That was my first go-to for my first EV. Unfortunately, I didn't get it because, well, actually, fortunately, because I got to explore the Tesla. But I drove the Cybertruck and now the Silverado. I mean, again, I think they're both great trucks. I just don't know if I would stick with the Silverado just because of the technology. I'm a very tech person. I like my stuff. Like, here's the thing: you get an update on a Cybertruck or any Tesla product, you get a brand new car essentially. They give you all the features that are cool. You know, the little widgets change around. It's kind of like getting a brand new car every year because they update some stuff on there for you. With the Cybertruck, with the Silverado and the Hyundais, I mean, you don't get that. I mean, Habib, you had the Ford, so I don't know if the Ford allows you with these fun upgrades, but
I want to hear Paul talk about the different bed options. That's fascinating. I know about them to a degree, but he just saw them. But I have to step away for a minute, and I'm just going to be listening. But if people want to see different options, you can go to EV Upfit. They have some really cool upfitting options for the Cybertruck and other Tesla vehicles, both for public safety and non-public safety, and unplugged performance, obviously. Unplugged Performance has some great options that are out there. They've been around for a long time. So both of those are some good options outside of just the Tesla factory stuff. So I'm going to mute. I'm going to step away for a minute and I'm just going to listen. But Paul, I'm excited to hear, the Ford versus the Chevy versus the Tesla.
No, thanks, Scott. And I'll check out the upfitters. I'm curious about tailgate options for Cybertruck. So yeah, what I noticed on the Silverado, just with one hand on the camera, the other hand just to open the tailgate and then to flip down the little half portion and then another step. So it's got like three portions you can fold down all with one hand. It's pretty cool as far as an ability to step into the back of the truck in the Silverado. It was kind of impressive what they've done there with the multiple hinges and the robustness and all. That is not trying to make a case that it's better. I'm not saying anything about the software. The truck is powered off. It's just me seeing it on a expo floor there at Electrify Everything in Vancouver. And then there was one with wicked big tires, so it was way up high, and another one quite low with normal wheels on it, comparing and contrasting. And it was just impressive to see GM's complete lineup in one area compared to the year before where they had almost nothing, I'm told by people who went last year. But anyhow, then a few days later, I'm back in Connecticut, New Haven. We held the Northeast Electric Vehicle Symposium, and we had a Ford F-150 Lightning, and we used it as our stage where me and others got to speak. And that one had a single step, kind of a flimsier looking thin metal thing you step on, but still quite easy to step up into the bed of the truck. And you had a place to put a little metal pole where you could just grab it. And we had some people in their 50s that needed to climb up on the stage, and it was, reasonably safe. Maybe not quite as robust looking as Silverado, but just making some observations on the physical tailgate. And then finally, the midgate, and that was down on the display for the Silverado, showing off, the whole midgate feature. If you haven't seen it, there's a Sandy Monroe video where he goes through lowering that thing. It's a little bit complicated, moving the window down, clipping the window in, flipping it down, but yeah, that versatility is amazing. So over and over as it was the Silverados on display, many people commented like, wow, that is really long for a kayak or whatever. So, and then of course range, a bigger battery, the Silverado. So yeah, it's got some pluses for sure. If someone tows a lot and they really need the range, Silverado's got the edge there. But as far as software and the ownership experience, I think only time will tell, right? How many flaws, how many recalls will that thing have in its first year? I don't know. I'm just talking about the physical stuff and the tailgating.
The recalls will not get any kind of hype like a software recall does from a Tesla. So.
Well, here's
Good
let me touch on that real quick. But let me comment on all three trucks. So I have an F-150 gas truck, and I'm sure they haven't redesigned it too much from what I have. But you're right, that step was there. I love that step. That pole helped me out quite a bit, especially when I was like putting stuff in and going ready to go camping. The Silverado has a phenomenal bed. It feels like a big bed. The only thing and it's funny because I talked to Andy. Andy's like, "Hey, Andy, does this bed feel shorter to you? Like not shorter, but does it feel more compressed to you on a Cybertruck?" He's like, he did comment that it'll fit a whole sheet of plywood, or I think plywood on there for like if you were to build a house or so. But it does seem to me that's a little bit more like on the left and right side of the bed. It seems like it's a little bit more compressed than you would see on a normal truck. And I could be wrong on that, but that's kind of the initial feel that I got on the bed of the Cybertruck.
Okay, yeah, I'm driving in a Model 3 right now, so I can't look it up. Does anyone know the exact distance between the wheel protrusions in a Silverado versus Cybertruck? Yeah, I'd be curious.
Yeah, Scott, if you're not doing anything, maybe you can look that up. And then,
Yeah, I think the Cybertruck bed is like a little bit longer than most other beds. It's actually, I think it's like right at 6 feet, something like that. But the width is a bit funny because it's a wide at the top and then it kind of narrows as you come down because of the wheel well and some other things. So I think you're right. I mean, most beds are straight down. So you've got a standard width, which makes it a lot easier to figure out whether something's going in there. But I think the Cybertruck makes up for it by being just a little bit longer.
and sorry, Scott, I didn't mean to call you out. I was talking to Subaru Scott because I know he's.
No. I know he can look it up too. But I was just trying to do that from memory. But and I know that's for a lot of people that were trying to design attachments to go in there. That's been kind of an issue because they were assuming kind of a standard width going all the way through. I think the other thing that Mishka brought up that I don't know, maybe Paul can address this or others, is that he was talking about like a fifth wheel, which is like a very different type of towing attachment. And I don't know enough about fifth wheels. I don't know if they can go in all pickup trucks because I think the frame has to be a certain kind of frame maybe to deal with it. The Cybertruck, I think, technically would be able to handle it, except for the fact that it's a wedge design coming on down, so you don't quite have the clearance over the sides, or you'd have to design it a little bit different. And I'm trying to think if I remember seeing like a YouTube video or some guys that were trying to come up with a potential fifth wheel design that might work in the Cybertruck. But if anyone knows a little bit more, please come up.
So fifth wheels are pretty fascinating. I only know about them once again because I'm a volunteer firefighter up here in Jersey, and we kind of come across this once in a while. But they have to be mounted over the rear axle. It's got to be a certain type of frame construction of the vehicle, and you can get it done aftermarket. But what's really interesting now is they actually have a fifth wheel trailer that you can just tow behind your vehicle. So if you have an F-150, for instance, F-150s, I apologize, but like some of the more entry-level trims, they cannot support a fifth wheel attachment in the bed. So there's a little trailer attachment that you put on the back of the F-150. You hook it up to your trailer hitch, and a fifth wheel trailer will mount to that directly. It's actually a set of wheels. It's an axle that you can pull. And so in theory, you could just hook that up to your Cybertruck and use that also as a workaround. And then I just wanted to share one more quick thing. Somebody asked about the software. And actually the CEO of Ford mentioned this. I'll see if I can find the link when I get home and I'll post it in the purple pill. The interesting thing about what he commented specifically was that because of Tesla's vertical integration, even Ford doesn't even build or manufacture their own window up and down switches. So if they decide they want to rewrite the software to change the speed that the window will go up and down, they are blocked by so many patents because of the microchips and the software for those microchips. and just extrapolate that throughout the entire vehicle for how many different third-party suppliers they use for parts. And if they can't control the software for those parts, it becomes very difficult for them to overall control like the overall ecosystem of the vehicle versus Tesla that has a lot of that free reign and ability, because they don't have to answer to anyone else's quote unquote patent. And that's a big part of the software and upgrading the vehicle.
I think you bring up a great point. By the way, I think I posted up the fifth wheel to the Jumbotron. I think that's the one you're talking about, Habib. But it's an interesting point that you bring up because I remember Tesla saying, hey, yeah, but we had to do an update, over-the-air update for your windows because they weren't closing far up enough or something like that. And over the air, they were able to adjust, like, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, like by what, millimeter or something like that, just to make it close just a little bit more or something like that. But you're right. That's a big impact. That Tesla has control over that entire technology platform, which is very very unique. And when it comes to over the air updates, Paul, one of the things I did learn about Silverado is, we can all get over the air updates on these new EV cars. The difference with Silverado and Tesla, from what they told me, is if it's a critical thing, like say the regulators say, oh, you have to make your parking or whatever, you have something critical over the air that's updated, you actually have to bring your Silverado in and make an appointment, and then they'll do the update for you. It won't be as simple as what Tesla offers you, which is at your home while you're sleeping, you can have your car hooked up to the charger and on your Wi-Fi, and you're done the next day. Mishka?
So what I was just gonna briefly interject. It sounds as though if you were to make a comparison, say in the computer world, a Tesla is a bit like a Mac,
It's the
where
iPhone. Yeah, it's the
they
iPhone iMac Pro.
build. Sorry, well, they build all the
Keep going,
hardware
Mishka.
and they build the software, and so they literally own it soup to nuts, end to end, as opposed to say Microsoft, where it's all kind of different components put together, and then you need drivers and things just don't always work exactly as expected.
Yeah.
Does that
And
make
by the way,
sense?
guys, we just want to let you know we're streaming this on X, broadcasting this. So every time you guys speak, I have your name and your handle pop up on the lower thirds. It's on X, and it's also being rebroadcasted on. We're also streaming from our platform to YouTube. So this is pretty cool. It's our first little go around with dual streaming. And I had Habib's name up there. I had Scott Walter, Mishka. I had Paul up there, Andy, Scott, Subaru Scott, Tay-Ray. So it'd be pretty fun to see how this works out for the upcoming shows. You had a question, Paul?
No, sorry, I just dropped internet, but thank you. It's an honor. It was fun to join this and not be talking about stocks and talking about tech. This was fun.
Well, this is light tech. We didn't get into any kind of heavy objects this week. This was like a very light show. We didn't like get deep into any one thing.
Yeah, by the way, I'm going to plug my communities page. I started the communities page on my profile pin. It's called Dad Jokes. If you guys want to join the Dad Jokes page, me, Subaru Scott, Scott Walters, and a bunch of other people are on there now. I just started it yesterday. It's kind of fun. We just post a dad joke a day or one a month or whatever. It's kind of fun to get into that. Next week, I do want to talk about the apps that I've used to go across country, because Tesla does have a phenomenal. Oh, yeah, Miss Tanya, come join our little dad jokes thing. It's fun. Next week, I want to talk about the apps we use, because Tesla does have a phenomenal system for superchargers, far better than anything I've seen before. I don't know if you've had different experiences, if anybody else has had, but it's definitely been a great product. But there are some other apps out there that will make your experience a little bit better in terms of traveling cross country, especially about customizing once you get experience in EV travel, which is a whole nother animal compared to ICE right now. But that's kind of what I want to talk about next week. We'll be test driving the Ford Lightning. I'll be doing that. And tomorrow I'll be posting my experience with the Silverado. I have a video that I streamed and I made, and I'll be posting that tomorrow for you guys to watch the Silverado EV. Does anybody else have anything else that they wanted to add?
Yeah, well, anyone in Florida, remember Saturday up in Ocala from 3 to 9, there is a big Cybertruck event. And what I was just looking at it, it looks like there's going to be already over 100 Cybertrucks there just for the light show in the evening.
Oh, is it one of the light shows put on by I have got to look
by Simon Pollock.
Oh,
Yeah,
sweet.
so it's a special light show, and so this should be, yes, it's going to be quite the wedge of Cybertrucks there. I didn't realize there was that many Cybertrucks in the area, but I'm sure some of them aren't just coming from Florida, but it seems like there's loads and loads of Cybertrucks around here. So that will be rather interesting just to see that. And I'm going to be on one of the panels along with a couple of the other people talking about everything from Optimus to, the financials. CERN will be there. So he's probably going to be able to talk about all kinds of his projections and stuff like that because he's a real numbers guy. Bearded Tesla guy and Tesla Latino will be there to talk about their Arctic trip and everything, and talk about what Ryan was talking about earlier and Andy of taking it down to zero. That's what Bearded Tesla guy does. That's how he's always able to win these kind of daily competitions that he has with Tesla Latino because he's not afraid to take it to zero and stretch it out, and he's able to charge a lot faster.
Yeah, 100%.
So
and I think there were a couple of times he actually went negative.
Oh yeah, you can do it. You get into the service menu, learn how to look at your SOC. There's an extra 20, 25 miles beyond zero. If anybody's within 1,000 miles of Ocala, where Scott is talking about, that's going to be so worth it. Just a light show. The fact that Scott's going to be on a panel and he's going to be answering questions, plus everybody else that's famous in the little community. What a thing! I want to come down from New Jersey. Like that's going to be.
Yeah, you should come down, because one of the things I'm going to do is after the panel, we're probably going to have like a little workshop to just talk about the Starlinks and how to get them into your cars and stuff like that. And I'm going to bring a couple of my dishes just so everyone can compare a standard dish with the Mini and what are the different accoutrements you need to be able to get it to plug in and work, and how you would mount it and all the different mounting options that are there. So yeah, we'll try to get some practical hands-on stuff for everyone. If you've never seen a Mini, you'll get to actually hold one.
And where's this at, Scott, again?
It's in Ocala, Florida, which is, it's sort of, I guess you could say halfway between Tampa and Gainesville.
You couldn't
I think it's a little bit closer to Gainesville.
done this while I was in Georgia a week ago.
Yeah, that would have been great. Well, I had nothing to do with it, but Brian White is the one that set it up, and it's a pretty big event, and it's on I-75. If anyone's familiar with like Silver Springs, that's basically where it is. And as you're coming down from Gainesville, heading towards Tampa, it's a little bit before where the turnpike splits off to Orlando. So it's maybe, I think, a little bit more than an hour from Orlando, maybe 90 minutes or something like that. So if anyone's coming into Disney for the weekend, hey, it's going to be more fun. There's going to be mud and trucks up in Ocala. So definitely make the trip there.
Yeah, I'd love it. Love it. Well, I just want to thank everybody. I know we have a few people left. I just want to thank everybody. Again, we stream this on X Broadcast and YouTube as well. So follow us there. Link is in the bio. And follow us if you'd like. Follow our Dad Joke community page. And we'll see you guys next Thursday. I thank everybody for coming on, Duchess, Mishka. Thank you, Sith, Tay-Ray, Miss Tanya, and everybody else that showed up. Lynn's, Scott Walters, Andy.
Everybody follow me. If you want to come up and speak, you got to follow us, right? Isn't that what the big YouTubers or the spacers say?
No, I'm not doing that. We're not doing 10 words or less. We're not going to kick people off.
It's fun. It's fun. We're paying homage.
Like and subscribe. Join my Patreon page.
And we're not plugging Mishka either. All right, guys. I will talk to you guys next week.
Thank you, everybody.
I don't have one.
Blessings that you guys joined. I can't believe you spend your time with us. It still blows my mind. We've been doing this now for 3 months, and I can't believe people take their time to sit around with me and Ryan and listen to us talk about